Imagine living your entire life without knowing that one day you would die. No fear of old age, no fear of losing everything, no fear of time running out. For billions of years, every living thing on Earth existed this way. Animals fought, animals hunted, animals fled from danger. But there is a difference between fearing death and understanding it.
A gazelle runs from a lion because it wants to survive. But does it know that one day it will stop existing? Does it lie awake wondering what happens after death? Probably not. And for most of Earth's history, nothing did. Then, something changed. At some point in prehistory, a human looked at a dead body and understood something no creature had ever understood before. Not just that death existed, but that it was coming for them too. One day, they would die, and that realization may have changed human history forever. Before we continue, if topics like human evolution, ancient history, psychology, and the mysteries of our species fascinate you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Most people who watch videos like this never subscribe, and there's a good chance they'll miss the next story, because what happened next may have changed humanity forever.
Death is older than humanity itself. Long before humans walked the Earth, entire worlds rose and disappeared throughout Earth's history. The dinosaurs ruled this planet for over 160 million years. Then they vanished. Mammoths once crossed frozen landscapes. Now they're gone. Thousands of species have appeared and disappeared throughout Earth's history. Death has always been part of life, but understanding death is something entirely different. Most animals seem to understand immediate danger.
They recognize predators, they avoid pain, they protect themselves, but there is almost no evidence that they understand mortality in the way humans do. A wolf can fear an injury, a deer can fear a hunter, a chimpanzee can fear an attack from another chimpanzee, but none of them seem to spend time imagining their own future death. They live in the present. Humans don't. We can imagine tomorrow, next year, old age, and eventually, our own absence. That ability may be one of the strangest traits evolution ever produced, because once you understand that your life will end, every decision changes. The future becomes real, time becomes valuable, and suddenly, every moment matters.
Scientists have spent decades studying whether animals understand death. The answer is complicated. Elephants sometimes gather around the bones of dead elephants. They touch them with their trunks. They remain nearby for long periods. Chimpanzees have been observed sitting silently beside deceased members of their group. Some mothers even carry the bodies of dead infants for days. Crows gather around dead crows in what researchers sometimes call crow funerals. Animals clearly recognize that something important has happened. They understand loss. But recognizing death is not the same as understanding mortality. The real question is different. Can they understand that the same fate awaits them? Can they imagine themselves dying years in the future? Can they picture a world continuing without them? As far as we know, only humans can do that. And that ability may have emerged much earlier than most people realize. Around the world, archaeologists have uncovered something remarkable. Ancient burials. Not random piles of bones. Not victims left behind by predators. Intentional burials. Bodies carefully placed into the ground. Sometimes curled into specific positions. Sometimes accompanied by tools. Sometimes buried with ornaments, pigments, or objects that appear to have symbolic meaning. One of the most famous examples comes from Shanidar Cave in present-day Iraq. Another comes from Kafse Cave in Israel. Some of these burials are tens of thousands of years old, and they raise an enormous question. Why bury the dead at all?
Think about it. Digging a grave requires effort, energy, time, resources. For hunter-gatherers living difficult lives, none of those things were abundant. If survival was the only goal, leaving the body behind would have been easier. Yet they didn't. Again and again, humans returned to the same behavior. They buried their dead. And that suggests something extraordinary. The dead still mattered, even after they were gone. Imagine sitting beside the body of someone you love. Yesterday, they laughed.
Yesterday they spoke. Yesterday they walked beside you. Now, they're motionless. Hours pass. Nothing changes. A day passes. Still nothing. Slowly, a terrifying realization begins to take shape. If it happened to them, it can happen to me. Nobody knows who first had this realization. But somewhere in prehistory, someone connected those dots. Someone understood that death wasn't just an event that happened to others. It was a destination waiting for everyone, including themselves. For the first time in Earth's history, an animal may have become aware of the ending of its own story. That realization changed everything. Because the moment you understand death, you also understand the future. You understand aging. You understand loss. You understand that time is limited. Before that moment, life is simply a series of experiences. After that moment, life becomes something else entirely. A finite journey. Every sunrise becomes one less sunrise you'll ever see. Every year becomes one less year you'll ever have. And suddenly, choices matter in a way they never did before. Because now, there is a deadline. And deadlines create urgency. Many psychologists believe this awareness helped shape the human mind itself. Think about what happens when you know your life will end. You start planning. You start preparing. You start imagining futures that don't exist yet. You save resources. You teach your children. You pass on knowledge. You build things meant to outlast you. In a strange way, awareness of death may have helped create civilization. Not agriculture, not cities, not writing, but the desire to leave something behind. A reason for your existence to continue after you're gone. And that search may explain something else. Religion. Almost every civilization in history developed beliefs about what happens after death. Ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, Greece, Rome, the Maya, the Inca. Thousands of cultures separated by oceans and centuries. Yet all of them asked the same question. What happens next? The answers were different. The question remained the same. Some believed the dead entered another world. Others believed they were reborn. Others believed they joined their ancestors. Others imagined heavens. Others imagined underworlds. But beneath every story was the same human desire. The hope that death wasn't really the end. Because once humans became aware of mortality, they also became aware of the possibility of meaning. And I'm curious about your perspective. What do you think truly separates humans from every other animal on Earth? Let me know in the comments before we continue. In the 1980s, psychologists developed a theory called terror management theory. The idea is surprisingly simple. Humans know they're going to die. That knowledge creates anxiety. To manage that anxiety, we build systems of meaning. Religion, culture, identity, purpose, traditions, achievements. These systems allow us to feel connected to something larger than ourselves. Something that will continue after we're gone. When people are reminded of death, they often become more protective of their beliefs, more committed to their values, more motivated to leave a legacy. It's as if awareness of mortality quietly influences much of human behavior. even when we don't realize it. Now, think about the greatest achievements in human history. The pyramids, ancient temples, great works of art, books, music, scientific discoveries, entire civilizations. Most of these things share one characteristic. They outlive their creators.
The builder dies. The monument remains. The writer dies. The story remains. The parent dies. The children remain. Perhaps that's not a coincidence. Perhaps much of human achievement is really an attempt to push back against mortality. Not by defeating death, but by creating something that survives it. A kind of symbolic immortality.
Something extraordinary happened the day humans became aware of death. For the first time, an animal could see the end of its own story. It could imagine a future without itself. It could understand the passage of time. And instead of surrendering to despair, it responded with imagination. It created myths, religions, art, philosophy, science, civilizations, entire worlds of meaning. Maybe civilization didn't begin with agriculture. Maybe it didn't begin with fire. Maybe it didn't begin with language. Maybe it began with a single thought forming inside the mind of a prehistoric human tens of thousands of years ago. A thought so powerful that it changed our species forever.
One day, I will die. And everything humanity built afterward may have been an attempt to answer that realization. Not to escape death, but to create something that could outlive it. Because what makes humans unique may not be that we die. Every living thing does. What makes us unique is that we know we will. And somehow, despite that knowledge, we keep building. We keep creating. We keep loving. We keep dreaming.